All right, guys. So this video here is going to be a damage update, and today is the 8th of July, 2026. And what I did was I want to apologize first off to everybody out there that's been watching my videos. Um, I'm still alive. I'm still doing what I can do. I still get radiated at nighttime. I wake up, eyes bloodshot, dry to some degree with the straight line bisecting the pupil. I'm going to get to that here in a little bit when I start talking about individual areas that are damaged, how they got damaged, what the first feeling was, how it feels, and what the prospect of each individual area is going to be for my future. And I'm sure some of you guys are going to be able to relate with damage that you have as well and things that are going on with you. So this is going to be strictly about individual areas on me. The first time it got hit, how it works. And unfortunately, this is not something I'm excited to do. This is not a video I'm excited to make. And as I speak to you, I am getting hit with the energy right here. I just got hit on my arm right there. So 100% of your body is able to be hit with this energy inside and out. You have individual pieces of your body that are numbered. So the computer system, just like any computer system, it has to have a number or some sort of enumeration, some sort of number, alphanumeric, whatever. That way it knows where to send the energy. It does the background computer system itself. All those lines of computer code, it has individual numbers for every piece of you to the smallest affectable piece of your body. So that's how it can hit your left foot. I already spoke about this. If you want to look at my other video down in the videos, look at how the energy works. I think it's called something to that degree. To that effect. It's something like how the energy works, or how the directed energy hurts you, or something like that. It's something about directed energy. So if you guys are new to my channel here, I want to say hi. My name is Nicholas Falcone. I have been targeted with this directed energy since overtly targeted. First hearing the chat bot, I'm going to say DEW since it started in about 2006. Then it stopped after about a year of that when I worked at a place called NovaCare in King of Prussia, Pennsylvania. My scalp was being hit and the outside of my head and a few other little things that I didn't know at that time. Obviously, what it was just confused why my scalp was sore. But that was 2006 in or around. And then it came back online, I want to say about 2015, overt chatbot. And the chatbot simultaneously correlated with, in and around that 2015 era, correlated with DEW, directed energy weapon of some sort. It's a weapon. Obviously, it's being utilized by an automated computer system in the frame of reference of a weapon. It is shooting a projectile of energy into my body, which is attached to individual nanoparticles that are assimilated to the cellular level, right around there, probably the cellular level of individual body parts. So that's backed up by a multitude of different doctors and scientists and people that have blown the whistle on this program. Don't believe me, please. Look at the other videos, inform yourself. Two of the books that I like to tell you about are by Robert Duncan. This one is called How to Tame a Demon. Very cheap, less than $20, I think this one is. There's Dr. Duncan. God bless him for debriefing a bunch of whistleblowers before he passed away. He wrote this book, and this book in about 2009, I think it's copyrighted. And this is the one you really want to get. So if you go to any clinicians, this is my suggestion, get these books If you're going to go to a clinician that doesn't have any prior knowledge of the system, grab these books and please bring them as a reference tool. Do not, under any circumstance, go to a doctor's office and start yelling and screaming about, oh, the military, they're burning me with the energy. Oh, the cameras, they're recording me. Please don't do that. That is the number one mistake that people make, besides thinking that their neighbors are the ones doing this to them. People run to the doctor's office. Excuse me 1 second. I'm going to grab my nasal spray. That is the number one mistake that people make. They run to the doctor's office and they have no idea, especially after phase 1 of your targeting. Look up another one of my videos that I talk about the phases of targeting. I'll probably make a new video on that. The phases of targeting, I talk about phase 1, phase 2. It's simulation versus body damage or something. It's overt versus covert, simulation versus simulation phase. Versus radiation phase versus bodily damage. So it's overt, covert, simulation versus radiation. Check out that video if you want to know about the radiation phases. These are the radiation phases here. This will always be on my board if you're not familiar with what this is. Phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. So phase 1 correlates with phase 1 of your simulation phase, which is just the life simulation. Your life is on a computer. They control your life. They give you your life, and then they simulate it. So phase 1 is the highest level of consistent energy implemented into your body to lay the foundation of your deterioration later on, sometimes upwards of decades later on. And, cancer, they want it high and concentrated in the beginning when you're having the most, during phase 1 of your simulation, which is desocialize, isolate, mental health care for most of us. They want to correlate the highest level of energy concentrated because that is the most chaotic time in your targeting, when they're destroying your life and desocializing you from any boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife. You're going to get divorced and have all that kind of crazy stuff going on. So during the craziest part of your targeting for your simulation protocol, they're going to give you the craziest part of your implemented deteriorating energy or directed energy implementation to correlate with that, because you don't know what's going on. You don't know your bloodshot eyes is radiation being beamed into your head to give you brain cancer, ocular cancer, head and neck cancer, otolaryngological cancer, oral maxillofacial cancer. All right. Phase 2 is just 1,000 to 1,500 microteslas on your radiation detector. I recommend everybody get a radiation detector. Do not get the stupid Amazon bullshit, that cheap Amazon crap for like $20. Please go out and get a TCL Alcatel A3 phone. Go get a TCL Alcatel A3 phone, it's called. They're out of manufacture now, so they're getting scarcer to get. But these are by far the best radiation detectors because you can customize them. Sorry. You can customize these radiation detectors. And typically when my nose gets clogged, that means I'm having upper head radiation. Of course not now because I'm on video, but you can customize these. You can hear. So if the radiation level is high, that sound is going to go, whoo, it's going to get extremely high pitched. So you have the visual of this. You have the visual of this and you have the sound of that. So that way you don't have to have the phone on camera to know that you're being radiated. So what Dr. Robert Duncan recommends is that anybody being radiated at nighttime like me, I haven't done this yet because I don't know how I'm going to do it. Get a digital video recorder, a DVR that has no link to Wi-Fi or anything. So that way there's no possibility the system can jack into it to do anything with it. get a DVR and get a security camera that you can wirelessly link into that DVR and position it in your bedroom, and then position this detector in and around your head, your body. The problem is that if you have it by your head, well, they'll just radiate your balls. If you have it by your balls, they'll radiate your feet. If you have it by your feet, they'll radiate your ass, your anus. So, and then they don't have to have a static radiation signal. They can have what is called an electromicrowave pulse, electric microwave pulse. They'll have a microwave pulse of energy, which doesn't come up on the detector. It's just a quick infusion of energy. Boom. And that's it. It infuses into the tissue depending upon the level at which the energy is sent. All right, so that's my story. I'm still moving, I'm still walking, I'm still talking. For how much longer? Who knows? So I just want you guys to know that, like I said, don't go to any doctor's office without having some material with you. Because if you start talking about things they don't know about, they're going to go, you're nuts, get out of here. They're going to refer you to psych, and you're going to have a nightmare. My neuro doctor knows about it. My eye doctor knows about it. It's just, what can they do? What can they do? So what I wanted to do was, I have my brother's a tattoo artist and he owns a tattoo shop. So he has a skin marker. These are called, they're just surgical markers, like how a surgeon would mark you up for surgery. Sucks. When my nose gets clogged, it's usually a light level of radiation, 10 to 20 microteslas above background. Phase 3 radiation is 5 to 20 microteslas concentrated above background. Typically in the 10 to 15 year span, when you're in that 10 years, like me, the 7 to 10 years, you're going to be in this phase 3 radiation typically. So it's just going to be a low level of radiation for an extended period of time. Or you're going to have, every now and then at nighttime or during the day, peaks of high levels of energy. It's just going to be a quick infusion, or your eyes will get rolled back in your head because the computer will do an EMP to your brain, and it'll overload your brain. And what it does is it rolls your eyes back in your head momentarily, and then it cuts the energy off and you come back, but the damage is done. So what I'm going to do here to get to this for the damage update is, I'm going to use my body and the damaged areas to show you and talk to you about what to expect, what to feel, what it's going to feel like, and what the future probably holds for anybody that's being damaged in the same areas. So I saw a couple of videos, where people are holding the detectors to their heads, and it's a shame, because it doesn't matter if you have kids or you don't have kids. If you have a loved one, you don't have a loved one. If you have a house, you don't have a house, a car, it doesn't matter. Well, all that matters is that you have a human brain, and I talk about this in some of my other videos. So please feel free to watch the other videos as well. All right. So now that I got that across, Dr. Robert Duncan, Brian Coffrin, and just look, there's another guy named Brian Coffrin, BryanKofron, Coffrin. You want to look him up as well, Dr. James Giordano. Look up all of these people. They're all people that have inside information. They're whistleblowers. They've worked for the system, or they've worked with the system, or people that have given them information. Like Dr. Giordano has somebody feeding him information from the inside of the system. All right. So now you may want to say, Nick, but you seem like you're doing great. You're talking, you're walking. You have a car right there. This is a garage. It's attached to a house. Right. So I'll stop you right there. Just because people are walking, talking, this thing can drop you like that. It'll just drop you if it wants to. That's not a part of the usual and customary protocol for walking to death. Walking to death is just going to slowly infuse the energy into you. After phase 1, you fall back into a lull, into a quasi-normal life where you have a car, you have some money, you do things until, like, the people that are still covert targets out there, they're just going to wake up one day and go, oh, fuck, or ow, or ooh. Well, they had the same amount of energy pumped into them, except for they don't hear the chatbot. They didn't look up on the internet. They're just going to go, honey, I got to go to the doctor. And then they go to the doctor, and then they get the cancer diagnosis, the heart failure, the brain, the stroke, the whatever, you know, the physical deterioration in essence. And I guess you can say, fortunately for people like me, people like you, if you're somebody who hears the chatbot, who's watching the videos, you know what is going on. So you have an idea of what to expect. But if you don't have a full idea of what to expect, please continue to listen. I'm going to go from head to toe for all of my body parts and how they've been hit, how many times they've been hit, and, you know, roughly which ones have been targeted more frequently than others. And yeah, hopefully it makes sense to you. Hopefully I don't scare you. I don't mean to scare you. I don't mean to panic you. I just mean to let you know that this is not something that goes away. This is not going away. This is not something, unless we're in Havana, Cuba, or unless you're, I don't know, a lieutenant colonel in the military and your wife and you are no longer targeted because you were on 60 Minutes, I guess. I don't know. You know, seems to be if you're a government employee or a government worker that had some sort of intervention, or you were on TV or something like that, it seems to not happen again. Unfortunately for me and you, that's not who we are. So let's face reality here, shall we? So, like I said, in and around 2015, this came back. The first iterations of the directed energy and damage for me was my skull or my scalp. So my scalp was getting hit. I had, I would say, kind of moderate pain on my scalp when I would go like this and rustle my hair with the bottom of my hand like this. And I went to the doctor, and the doctor was like, I don't know, did you change shampoo? You know, as a doctor will do. This was in 2006, by the way. First iteration of directed energy that I noticed. And he's like, did you change shampoo? You know, the usual thing. And I'm like, nope, I have no idea about the shampoo. You know, what do you think it could be? And he's like, I don't know, nerve damage. Who knows? I don't know. He didn't know. He was at a loss. So, like I said, it went on for a while. You know, I had just random. It was so random. It was like, it wasn't consistent. That's what I remember of it in those early days. It wasn't consistent. There was no consistency. It wasn't like, oh, my scalp was always sore. I was always having pain. No, it was like it would hurt, then it wouldn't for a long time, then it would hurt again. So it was just this slight infusion of this energy only on the outside. I didn't have any brain pain, didn't have any, like, you know, like you get into a car accident or you get hit playing sports and you have that where your brain gets bruised or shaken inside of your skull. None of that, because that's what it feels like when you get hit with the energy into your brain tissue. I'll get to that in a second. So the scalp, it just felt like, you know, like a nerve pain, because what it is for the scalp, what it is that here's your head, you know, right? Here's your eyes. So when that energy comes in and it doesn't hit the brain, okay? So we're only going to the surface. So we'll say this is your skull right here in this area. Let me get another color. Your skull is here. It only hits the skull and it goes down to the hair follicle. So the hair follicle connects all across your head. That's why a lot of people lose their hair. There's a black lady that was on, I did a video where she lost all of her hair like that. Now, the way you're going to lose your hair like that is if you have, I would say, thousands and thousands of concentrated microteslas on just your scalp. And it can kill your hair follicles like that, just like if you're getting cancer treatment. So the scalp, I felt this pain. So when I would take my hand and I would rustle my hair like this, I had shorter hair, I would go like this. I was like, ow, what is that? And it would be like here, and it would be specific spots. It wouldn't be the entire scalp. So you could tell where exactly, if you had a marker, you could draw a circle around where it was directly hit. Did not transmit into the intracranial space, into the brain. This is the brain here. It didn't go into the brain at that point in time. So it just stayed on the scalp. And then, you know, like I said, went a bunch of time to 2015. There was other things done at that time that weren't necessarily damaging. It was just more or less to inconvenience you. As you guys, I'm sure, are aware that you've had a lot of things done to you that are not really so much damaging to the physical body as much as it is just to inconvenience you in life. Whether it's, you know, making you pee, having you have a urinary frequency, I call it. I'm going to make a separate video for that. But, you know, it controls your bladder and it controls your intestines. So it can control your urine and feces. For some people, it's not all across the board, but a common thing to do to people is, if you're out and about, what is the 100% thing, if you're not a special needs person, that will control you? I'm on doing something, fucking close the door. Like, again, with the opening of the fucking door and looking for fucking lights. So what is the 100% thing that will control you, unless you're a special needs human that doesn't realize, you know, you may need to wear a diaper? Is yes, the computer will utilize the control of the bladder and the control of your intestines. So it'll give you diarrhea. I had diarrhea for 6 months straight in the beginning, in phase 1 of my targeting. I did not have a solid bowel movement for 6 months. And I spoke a little bit about that in previous videos, but I'll make a whole video just about that. So, you know, it does those type of things while it physically harms you. And it does not want to have you urinate yourself or defecate yourself. The essence of this system is torture and physical damage. So this is a torture system. Torture. So what is the essence of torture, real quick? The essence of torture is to bring you up to the edge, hold you as close to the edge, and then when you're about to break and you're about to end it, drop you back down, because you don't want to end it. So with urine and feces, what the essence of torture is to get that burn going on where you're like, and then you run to the bathroom, and as you get closer to the bathroom, the computer is looking through your visual cortex, so it sees the less distance you have from the bathroom, the higher the burn in your, you know, your bladder is going to be, the urinary frequency burn. And then once you get to the toilet, it's going to be like, oh my God, I just barely made it. Anybody that's having that done to them knows what I'm talking about. And then same thing with, you know, the feces, or with defecating, to be proper. I'm not going to say shitting. Well, you might as well say shitting yourself. Is that the computer controls that too, because it's a guaranteed control mechanism. It's torture and control. So the control relates to the idea of the thing happening in general. It's going to stop you dead in your tracks and have you go where it wants you to go. It wants you to go somewhere else and stop doing what you're doing. That's the control. The torture is that it's torturing you to make you think you're going to piss or shit yourself. So this is what this system is. That is why you're dying. All right. So now the scalp, not that bad, you know, and it has happened since then, obviously, since 2015 when it started up again. But typically, it's not just relegated to the scalp. It's typically going to be intracranial. It's going to be relegated to the brain itself right here. So when it first started and it came back, I'll show you. I was having a lot of physical pressure. The amount of energy being shot into me was so great that there would be a physical pressure in phase 1 of my targeting. So for a long 6 years I put here, so it probably was for a number of years, for a long time. You have concentrated high level energy that will actually have a physical force. It is so great and so concentrated. And it was, let me see if I can get this right. I'm going to try and be right here. So right here on the front of my head, in this area here, in that area there on the front of my head, there would be a physical pressure. Hopefully it's, I can't see it, but I'm going to turn this around 1 second, guys. Right. Yeah, I'm going to draw it on this way real quick. Yeah, that's about right. I'm going to leave it like that. So there's a physical pressure, phase 1 targeting of your brain and your frontal lobe. So what I'm going to talk about here is going to be a mega terminal cancer that can come about from frontal lobe targeting. So with the brain targeting, it was there, and it was up here too, on the crown of my head up here. So I would feel it up here, but mainly I would feel it here on the front of my head, on my head there. And it would be, like I said, I can't say it enough. It was so concentrated in this phase 1, 100 to 500 microteslas, that it would feel like if you took 2 fingers, press them like a 6.5 to 7 out of 10 with your 2 fingers, and press that. And then when I would turn on my radiation detector, finally, when I found out about that, thanks to a guy named Kevin, who doesn't make videos anymore. He made 5,000 plus videos, and now he's gone. Don't know what happened to him. Hopefully he's doing well, But when you're involved with this, you never know when somebody's last day is going to be. So, I want to thank him for what he taught me. But what he thinks about is like, he thinks it's, people that he knows is doing it to him. Like a lot of people, completely wrong. But that's not what this video is about. So the early days when I was getting bathed in the radiation, sweating, waking up in a puddle of sweat at nighttime, my eyes are blown to smithereens. And I would wake up with the pressure on my forehead until I turned the detector on. And then you would feel a physical relief of the pressure. That's how great and concentrated this phase 1 energy is when they're working on the foundation of the future cancer spots. So there was that. And then, just generally, and that was all here, and then into the brain too, obviously into the brain tissue. But with that level of energy, you're going to have energy going into all kinds of structures. So that is continuing. It continues off and on. Now, like I said, when you get down and you've been targeted as long as I have, you get through these phases and you're into the 5 to 20 to 30 to 40 microteslas above background. So now it's not so much physical pressure concentrated. It's more, when I say above background, I mean, if you see that, add 5 to 30 microteslas to that. So it's just wants to keep a general amount of energy on your body to continue to add to that total microtesla energy level that has been implemented or introduced into these different areas. Because the more energy, the higher the probability that those cells will then mutate into cancerous cells. Because this energy is carcinogenic. The word is carcinogenic, or cancer causing. And just basically, if it's not going to cause cancer, it deteriorates your body, whether it's bone structure, no matter what piece of your body comes into contact with it or it's introduced into, it will eventually deteriorate that body part. And with bone, it'll soften your bone. You'll have a higher incidence of fractures. And with connective tissue in your joints, it'll deteriorate the connective tissue. You'll have a higher incidence of needing some sort of connective tissue repair or joint repair. So, and why would they do that? Because if they destroy your joints, and this is, again, forget about cancer for a second. If they destroy your joints, what can't you do? You can't move your arm. You can't move your fingers. You can't walk. Your hip. My dad's in there hobbling around with a bad hip, you know. All right, so that's the brain. And like I said, I dealt with that for a long time, being bathed in high levels of radiation energy. And after you're out of phase one of the radiation, that kind of just dissipates and it goes into just a regimented and regular sequence of 5 to 20 above the background, just to continue to implement some form of energy to continue to make sure that you're not just living a normal life. Because the basis of that is, if the computer wanted you to live a normal life and the system wasn't meant to fuck with you, why would it have started to do it in the first place? Right. So that's obviously pretty simple. If the computer started doing this to you, why would it stop? It would have never started in the first place if it was going to stop. All right. So now let's get down to the eyes here. So now with the eyes, I'll just color them in red. They are one of the first things that you will ever notice, and they are misdiagnosed a lot. So people go to the doctors, they're like, man, my eyes are really dry and sore. And like, oh man, I'm just really having a tough time, doc. You know, they're really bloodshot. And then the doctor, not knowing, is going to ask you, do you have any pets? Do you have a cat? Do you have a dog? Do you have anything that could have dander? This is the primary thing that the doctors are going to say. Could it be seasonal allergies? Could it be pollen, ragweed? What could it be? You know, so the doctors go through all that stuff. Maybe they give you some antihistamines to take, and maybe it's hay fever. One person said, doctor told them they had hay fever. But then they read a message board where it said, bloodshot eyes, radiation. It's one of the common things when you see targeted individuals or TIs and you see anything. One of the things you'll see is some sort of rendition of eyes that are all red and bloodshot. Well, what that is it's either directly hitting your eyes. I've had electron microwave pulses of energy hit my eyes, where it's just a quick little dot on the eye, but that's concentrated. So it has a higher incidence of having an outcome. Or it's a general frequency of energy where your eye will just flare up and you'll start rubbing your eye going like this, and you go, it's all itchy and sore, and you know, immediately all it has to do is just turn it on through the background anatomical operational system, meaning your eye has a number. Every piece of your eye, individual, it's broken down into pieces, has different numbers, so it can hit different areas of your eye. This is so sophisticated. You can't even believe it. Just your eye alone has probably thousands of different numbers attached to it, left and right. So it can hit, let's see, there's your eye. So it can hit each one of these different areas. Let me get another color. You know, boom, 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 boom. I've had so many little dots put in my eye. Psst, you feel it and you're like, oh wow, that's crazy. That should be some intraocular cancer. So what you can expect out of that is ocular deterioration. It may be 1C, 2Cs, who knows. Ocular deterioration. So your eyesight will start to go. You'll have, well, you could go blind. My grandfather got blinded with this, and I'll get into him in a later video. But he was an Italian immigrant that came over from Italy in 1919. Well, he was born in 1919, excuse me. Came over here in the late 20s, I guess, early 30s, from Italy on a boat. And even he, that's how it's everybody Everybody on this fucking planet, unless you're a newborn, is affectable and targetable, and your brain has a number on the computer system. That's why it's living in the matrix. Every single person has the ability to be hit with this shit. It's just, all you have to do is have a human brain. So my grandfather got blinded in his left eye. I saw him, I watched him because he was on hospice. He had a hospital bed in here in the living room. And I watched him and he kept rubbing his eye and rubbing his eye. And all day for like a week or two, probably about 2 weeks, he was just rubbing his eye off and on. Just, what the fuck? Is he getting hit with this energy? And I mean, I knew he was being used for like street theater and stuff like that, you know, inside the house to do dumb shit. But I didn't think they were mangling him with the energy to deteriorate his physical body. But I went to feed him one day, and this is what you guys got to watch out for. I went to feed him one day. I set the plate in front of him on his little, like, you know, he had like the little hospital tray. And I set the food in front of him. And I noticed that he used to eat his pasta with a fork and a spoon. And he would twirl the pasta. And I was like, that's odd. He used two hands. He couldn't, with his left hand, he couldn't grab the utensil. He was going like this. And remember, he had been rubbing his eye. And his cat, I didn't think of it at first. I'm like, what the fuck on? And here, what was going on was the computer was automatically burning his eye to the point where after several weeks of straight energy burning this dude's eye, he couldn't see out of it anymore. It was so deteriorated. So what I did was, I was like, this dude's fucking blind. Motherfucker. So I went like this and I took my hand. I wasn't going to hit him, obviously, but I wanted to test him and see. So I went like this and went, and I came this close to his face, right like that, and I stopped. He didn't flinch. He didn't even yell at me. My grandfather would have normally said, Nicholas, what are you doing? What is wrong with you? With his Italian accent. Nicholas, what are you doing? What are you doing? What is something wrong with you? He didn't do that because he was blind in that eye. But here I am. I'm the only one that knows about this system. I'm the only one that knows what's going on with the system. So of course the hospice nurse tells my dad, put a warm compress on his eye, put a warm rag on his eye. He must have poked himself in the eye. And that's what we as targets have to deal with. These dumbass, fucking easy ass solutions to problems that arise from satellite dishes and relay mechanisms communicating with nanoparticles in our body to deteriorate our eyes with ocular deterioration and then leading to intraocular cancer. And all that means is that the inside of the eye will be proliferated with cancer. And they don't even have to hit your eye directly. I can tell you this from experience. When they hit your brain right here, remember, my brain got hit right here a long fucking time. So when they hit your brain in that area, what happens is they don't care about retaining the energy. That's a huge amount of energy being shot into that area. What happens is that when that energy goes in here, a lot of that transmisses down into the eyes until all of it is absorbed or dissipates in your anatomy. So what happens is you get all this radiation in here on the frontal lobe of your brain or the front of your brain in general. Then it transmisses down. And what's next to hit? Well, it's going to clog your nose because it's going to swell your olfactory tissues in the back of your nose. It's going to burn your eyes. And what your eyes are going to look like is it's going to look like open eye irritation is what it's called. So with open eye irritation, I'm going to draw an eye right here. So here's your eye, right? Here's your pupil. And we'll just leave it like that. So what open eye irritation is there's going to be a line bisecting the eye like this. And that's going to essentially represent your eyelid. because your eyelid covers this top part of the eye. So most of the top part of the eye, you'll see a lesser degree of irritation and bloodshot. And then down here, you're going to have all of this bloodshot nonsense going on. It's going to look like you just got done smoking marijuana or something. You're going to have all of this shit. It's going to be cracked out, shot out, and it's always going to have this stark delineation like this. So that's why it's called open eye irritation, because it's as if you got pollen or dander or something, or you went into, like a pet house that wasn't properly vacuumed, and you're going to see that. I noticed that. I kept noticing that. I'm like, what in the fuck is this line for? Why is there a line in the middle of my eye like that? And all it is bloodshot, blown out eye shit. And then on the sides here is going to be catastrophic. It's going to start here and it's going to be fucking bad. All on the sides right here. So when you spin your eye one way or the other, it's going to be insane, the amount of redness and bloodshot shit. 1 second, I'll be right back. Computer, grab this. Oh, I guess I could. If you want to look at the YouTube shorts, on YouTube shorts, I have, the only YouTube short I have up is a video of me when I woke up after the first night I made my first video. I got radiated like phase 1, and that's what your eyes will look like after a night of phase 1 radiation. So that's your eyes. I mean, it's common. This is like, if we're talking about common, uncommon, rare, this is common. This is like everybody. Well, I can't say that. My brother Joey, the one who got the divorce and who's getting remarried and has 2 new kids, he never got radiated. Never. There's not one bloodshot vein in his eyes. So I don't know what that's about. I don't know if he just got overloaded with, the computer decided that, his loss of his wife and finances and having to pay her because she was a part of the business, if that was enough, and the monetary loss related to lessening of physical deterioration, I don't know. I have no idea. But as far as him having bloodshot eyes like mine, where you can visibly see mine all the time, that's just not the case. And then your eyes will get dried out and sore, because what this energy does, is, the name implies, microwave. I like to say microwave energy, whether it's the microwave wavelength or not, who cares? It sounds good and it works for what you need to get across. So the microwave energy does what it sounds like it does. It dries out that body part. So if your eyes are being directly hit, it's going to dry your eyes out to the point when you wake up, or the computer wakes you up, because you don't go to sleep or wake up. The computer puts you to sleep and it wakes you up. So by the time you wake up, you go to open your eyes, and your eyes are so dry and sore. The tissue is sore, your ocular tissue, the globe of your eye is so sore from the implementation of the energy that it hurts, physically hurts. And it's so dried out because that microwave energy dissipated and evaporated the fluid in that eye and around that eye, that to move your eye is just super painful. So it dries your eye out, literally takes the moisture and sucks it out. So that's the eyes. My eyes and everybody else's eyes have been hit pretty bad. Now, what I'm going to talk about as we move down, we're moving away from the eyes. We're going to get like I said, I'm not going to speak on the nose and the tissues in the back of the nose too much, but a lot of the times I have to use this nasal spray, this oxymetazoline, because when the energy is a low level energy sits right here on my face, it hits the tissues in the back of my nose and it swells the tissue, because any anatomical structure that this energy hits, it's like being slapped in the face. You know, wherever it is, it's like being slapped. There's a level of damage to the soft tissue and the anatomy. So it's sore, it's dry, and it swells. So once the energy goes away, the tissue shrinks because that energy is not being put inside of a restricted space. So it's not swelling the tissues just from the energy being shot into it. It's also not swelling the tissues anymore from damaging that tissue and causing a swelling from that energy being damaging and detrimental to the tissue itself. So I have to consistently spray this shit in my nose so I can breathe, which is not good. I mean, you're not supposed to use this shit a lot, you know, but what are you going to do? It's just another thing us targets have to deal with. So that's the nose and the back tissues in the back of the nose. And anything will just be talked away with plausible crap, you know, like, hey, did you do drugs? Did you sniff anything up your nose? Or like, you know, it's all about plausible deniability. All right, so then after that, we'll go to the intraoral space. So inside the mouth, I'm just going to tell you, you know, what's been going on with me. So mouth, and here's the mouth, here's the tongue, here's the teeth. I'm just going to do this for teeth. All right, so that's the teeth. And this is the tongue. And this is the back of the throat. This is the uvula. And that's the back of the throat. All right, so for me now, you put little dots on the tongue. There you go, tongue. All right, so for me now, I don't have many back teeth because the computer inspired me to do dumb shit in my life, and I didn't have a good health insurance, so I had the teeth pulled out. So what it does is it went through a phase of a peak. In the early days, it's going to hit all of your body. When it's first targeting you, it's going to make sure it gives a little wafting to each part of your body, all throughout your body. And it's going to be bad. So, but when it comes back around after phase one of the energy, and you slip into phase two and phase three, there's going to be certain areas, like I told you, like the clock, if you go look at the other videos, that are going to be targeted. So you have bone here in your jawbone. You have the back of your throat, all of that tissue there. I don't smoke, I don't drink, I don't do drugs, so it's none of that shit. But you don't need to do that. It can give you cancer anyway. So what it did was it would hit with EMPs, electric microwave pulses of energy, in the interior of the back of my throat, in the corner of the back of my tongue. It would hit my tongue directly on the side here. It focuses on this side of my face. I'll show you. So pull out the surgical marker again, and I'll just show you. It hits the side of my face here. I'm going to pull it around here. Back here is connective tissue. So right there, behind the back of my jawbone, it radiated on both sides. This is both sides of my face. And then down here, and then right here. And then I might as well do the lymph nodes too, because that was one of the first things that it did. I apologize for the bad camera angle here, but I'm doing the best I can. So, lymph node, right there. And then thyroid, back here, definitely back here, got hit bad. Like, it was sore as shit for a long time. And what this is there's connective tissue there. And then lymph node, and lymph node, and all of the lymph nodes in my neck got hit. And then thyroid here, and then I'll show you. Over here, got hit, and the side of my tongue. And this side of my tongue. Yeah. Yeah, it's tough to see the eyes, but you can see the bloodshot. You can see it. I wish there was a better. Right there, the eyes. You can see the line right there, going across and going across. Not nearly as bad as when it is right after you get hit. But yeah, so my lymph nodes all throughout the bottom of my neck on each side got hit. I want to say, holy shit, 6 years ago was the first time for the lymph nodes. We'll talk about those real quick. 6 years ago was the first time for the lymph nodes. And what happened was it hit each one individually. And the way it felt, let me turn this back around. And then I'll get back to that camera over here. So let me jump to the lymph nodes real quick. And the reason the lymph nodes are important, not only because it's trying to do the entire neck and the inside of the mouth as an entire area to go, oh, it must have started there and it spread here and it went there, and, you know, for plausibility. But because typically when you think of a bad cancer and you think of stage 2, 3, 4, you think of the doctor coming in and saying, oh no, we have bad news. It looks like it spread to your lymph nodes. And that's when they go, holy shit, it's like 2 to 3 stage. And then, you know, maybe even 4. If it spreads, depending upon how many different body parts it spreads to, from where they agree that the